Kalispera, greetings. It's really a great honor to be here, to have this opportunity to share with you the story of how I got involved in shooting a documentary feature film about Syrians who are trying to find a place where they belong amidst a terrible war in their home country. But first, I want to share with you a word. That word comes from the indigenous language spoken in New Zealand by the Maori peoples. It's Turanga Waiwai. Turanga what? Turanga Waiwai. Tu means to stand. Ra is the great light of the sun. Na is much or many. And Waiwai, that's your 2 feet. Turanga Waiwai means to stand tall in the great light of where you belong. Now, if you would, please join me and close your eyes just for a moment. I want you all to try to picture yourself in a place where you feel you belong. It could be anywhere on the planet, but it's specific just to you. Find that place where you feel at peace. Now let's all open our eyes together. Where do we belong? Is it where you're born, or maybe it's where your ancestors come from? My ancestors come from Germany, and so I wanted to go there. So a year ago I went to Germany, and I wanted to learn more about my heritage. And it's there that I was shocked by what I saw. I took this photo at the train station as hundreds, perhaps thousands of Syrian refugees were arriving there that day. It's of a young man standing there with his bags packed. He looks like he's about to board a school bus. The chances are he's gone on an unbelievable journey to reach this point in his life. I was curious about what I was doing at his age. Well, at his age, I grew up on a ranch in the middle of Colorado in America. Life was pretty great. I had a horse, and I had a dog. Life was kind of like the perfect childhood, I had to say, ideal. I grew up with my 3 sisters and my brother, and my mother, she taught us at home. Really the kind of childhood every kid deserves, I think. And I recently found a tape recording of my 10-year-old self speaking to my 7-year-old sister. And it was shocking to hear what we were talking about. We were talking about the war in the Gulf. I want to play a snippet from this recording to you now to transport you back to 1991 and my 10-year-old self.
You know, we're having a war, Saudi Arabia. The war is about who wants to own all the oil and gas. Anna will probably speak now, okay? The war is getting really serious, and some of us have think that the war has almost ended, but it has just started, and I hope we all live, and I wonder if we're ever going to end this. Well, it's like that because it's so big.
It is so big. In fact, it's so big that we're still in the midst of war in the Middle East and beyond 25 years later. So 7 months ago, I was living in San Francisco, and I got a call from a documentary film director. He said, "Johnny, can you jump on a plane today? We have the opportunity to go into a Syrian refugee camp in Germany to hear from them what it was like." I said, "How can I make a film about Syrian refugees? I know very little about their culture. I don't speak Arabic. In fact, I didn't know much about Syria. I didn't even know Syria was on the map before the Syrian war, I have to say." So I jumped on the flight that day, and I haven't been back since. And I was joined up by our executive producer, a Syrian-born man, and we started to hear stories from people, heart-wrenching stories. This woman told us about how she held her brother in her arms as he died from a bullet wound. She went on to tell us about how she was assimilating quickly to the culture in Germany and how she was hoping to become an educator there. This woman's name is Tolene. She used to be an art educator and teacher in Syria before the war. She told us that her hopes and dreams are to create educational animations and videos to empower young women. And then she showed us one of her beautiful paintings. I think so many people in Syria want to live in Germany because that's a place where they feel that they can belong again, perhaps. And in a way, I think Germany is standing up for them because they're standing tall and shining a light on a place where they can potentially start their lives over again. I wanted to get closer to the crisis and learn and see what people were going through on their migration journeys. And I ended up here in Greece, at a refugee camp, in a makeshift camp in Idomeni. That's where over 10,000 people were stuck on the border and just waiting for their lives to get better. It reminded me of the slums that I had seen in Haiti when I was documenting over there. Here's a young brother and a sister walking through the camp. Kids shouldn't have to grow up like this. And then I met a young woman who showed us her sketchbook. It was shocking. Kids are robbed of their childhood because of war. It's not the kind of sketch that we'd hope to see a young girl holding. In Arabic it says, this is the only solution between life and death. It's a young child's depiction of crossing the sea. It's there in Idomeni that I met so many young people whose lives were turned upside down because of the war. They had been going to university and everything changed for them. And I was blown away by their generosity and their kindness. I felt totally safe. In fact, my friends back home, they said, you have a lot of courage to go into these camps. Aren't you afraid? And I told them, you're missing out. I'm having a wonderful time. I made so many friends in Idomeni. In fact, they invited me to join them for meals. It was almost a competition for my attention. Yalla, yalla, Johnny, come closer, share this meal with us. They would feed me, they would show me pictures on their phones of life, what it was like in Syria before the war, and I made dear friends there. In fact, this family that I'm sitting with in the photo was recently relocated to Finland. So Greece is doing the best it can to help refugees. Some people think the process is slow, but they're standing tall and doing the best that they can. It was there in Idomeni that I met a woman named Allison Thompson. She literally brings light to people who've been living in the dark for so long. Through her program, gifting thousands of solar-powered lights to people who, if you can imagine, had almost nothing left. Perhaps they had a flashlight, but they ran out of batteries. I saw her delivering light to people. This is what the gift of light looks like. It was on the day that I was meant to leave Idomeni, and I met a family like mine. It was 3 sisters and a brother. Excuse me, I'm going to go to my slide about Allison and her quote. She says, imagine a world where everyone does their part, that the karma banks are overflowing with blue chip stocks of compassion, and we are all billionaires on the inside. It was the last day when I was about to leave Idomeni, and I met a family like mine, 3 sisters and a brother, and I couldn't leave them there. I felt like my purpose was to stick with them. And so I did, and I asked them, can I document your journey? I know that you're going through one of the hardest moments in your life, but I think this is an important story about trying to find a place where you belong. They said yes, and in that way I think they have great courage. They're standing up for all of their people and shining a light on what's happening. I learned that the brother was really talented at shooting video, so I sent him off with a video camera. And shooting the refugee camps was a piece of cake compared to what he had documented during the Civil War. Here's the brother holding up one of the paintings by his sister that she was producing. She was able to support her family through very difficult times in the camp by selling her paintings to volunteers. Being able to support her family and put food, give food to her family was an unbelievable thing to see. And I think those volunteers who were gifting her the supplies to make those paintings are amazing people, the kind that are true examples of those who stand tall. This is perhaps what it feels like to not know where you belong anymore. Another one of her beautiful paintings. What do you do when you're in the dark and you don't know where to go next, when there's no going home and there's potentially no going forward? I think we Americans and we Europeans and all of humanity, we have a couple ways we can respond to these people. We can say, you don't belong here. At worst, we can say, you don't belong anywhere. Or we can choose to stand up for them, perhaps helping them find a place where they belong. And maybe we can find that light in ourselves also. Turango Waiwai, Efkaristo Poli.